Welcome to the channel. Here, we provide clear, actionable insights into the complex world of tax and accounting to help your business thrive.
All right, today we are diving into something that's, well, it's both powerful and pretty controversial. It's called the Medicaid Trust. Now, is this some brilliant strategy for families to protect everything they've ever saved? Or is it kind of an unfair loophole that's gaming a system meant for people who are truly in need? We're going to break it all down, how it works, and really, what's at stake. There's this one fear that keeps a lot of us up at night. It's the idea that one single medical crisis, boom, could just wipe out everything you've spent your life working for. I mean, the cost of long-term care today is absolutely astronomical. It can literally drain a family's entire financial future. And that right there is the exact problem a Medicaid trust is designed to solve. Okay, so before we get too deep, let's just be clear on what Medicaid even is. You've heard of it, of course. It's that joint federal and state program that often steps in to cover those massive long-term care bills. But, and this is a huge but, there's a catch. It's a needs-based program. So to qualify, you have to pass two really strict financial tests, one for your income and another for your assets. Basically, you have to prove you have very limited resources. And that brings us right to the heart of the solution for the asset part of that test. It's called a Medicaid Asset Protection Trust, and it's a perfectly legal strategy designed for one specific purpose, to help families meet that asset requirement without being forced to spend down every single penny they've saved. So how does this thing actually work? Well, here's the basic idea. You take your assets, let's say your house, and you transfer them into a special kind of trust. It's called an irrevocable trust. Now that word, irrevocable, is super important. It means you are giving up control. You can't just take it back. But by doing that, you legally change who owns those assets. So as you can see here, they go from being your assets to trust assets. They're legally no longer yours. And because of that, they become invisible to that Medicaid asset test. They're effectively shielded, protected for your heirs. But, and this is absolutely crucial to get, this only solves one half of the puzzle. The trust is built to handle the asset test. It does absolutely nothing for the income test. Any money you have coming in from pensions, Social Security, rent, whatever, that is still counted. So you've got to remember, that's a completely separate financial hurdle to clear. So once you get your head around that whole asset versus income thing, what does this trust actually do for you? Well, it really comes down to two fundamental protections that are all about safeguarding your future. First, it helps you qualify for the care you might really need down the road. And second, it protects the legacy you've worked so hard to build for your family. So let's take a look at how it pulls off both of these really critical goals. Okay, benefit number one is pretty straightforward. It helps you qualify, plain and simple. By moving your assets into the trust, your countable net worth, what you own on paper, drops. It drops below that really strict line the state sets for eligibility. What that means is, when a medical crisis does hit, you can actually get the financial help you need for that super expensive care, and you don't have to be forced into poverty to do it. Now, this brings us to the second and maybe equally vital protection. A lot of people have no idea about this, but after someone on Medicaid passes away, the state can actually come back and try to recover the money they spent on that person's care, right from their estate. It's called estate recovery. But here's the brilliant part. Because the assets in the trust are no longer legally part of your estate, they're completely shielded from that. The state can't touch them. This ensures your home, your savings, they actually go to your kids. Okay, I know what you're thinking. This all sounds a little too good to be true, right? And you'd be right. There is a huge catch. You can't just decide to set this up a week before you need to go into a nursing home. There is a really critical timing rule you have to know about. It's called the look-back rule. So, that leads to probably the most important question in this whole conversation. When is the right time to do this? And the answer to that question is exactly why this is a tool for long-term planning and not some kind of last-minute fix. All right, let's walk through how this works on the timeline. When you apply for Medicaid, the state literally looks back at your financial history for the previous 5 years. And the reason they do this is pretty obvious, right? It's to stop people from just giving away all their money on a Monday to qualify for benefits on a Tuesday. So if you moved assets into a trust inside that 5-year window, you're going to face a penalty. You'll be ineligible for a period of time. It's only after that 5-year clock has run out that those assets in the trust are truly safe, truly protected and off limits. So if there is one thing you take away from all this, it's this number, 5 years. For a Medicaid trust to actually work, it has to be set up and funded at least 5 years before you think you might need long-term care. This isn't something you can do in a crisis. It requires you to plan ahead while you're still healthy. And this brings us right back to where we started, to the controversy. Because when people hear about this 5-year planning, a lot of them think, wait a minute, this sounds like a scheme for rich people to game the system. So let's tackle that argument head on. This really is the heart of the ethical debate, isn't it? Is using a tool like this just exploiting a system that's meant for the truly needy? Now, people who support using these trusts would say that that question kind of misunderstands who this is really for and what it's actually trying to prevent. So the counter-argument really comes down to a few key ideas. First off, they say this isn't for the super rich. Remember, those strict income rules, they still lock out the wealthy. Second, this is a completely legal financial planning tool. It's really no different than using a tax deduction that's written into the law. The real argument is that this is for middle-class families, the people who are right on that financial borderline, who would otherwise have to lose absolutely everything just to get help. So from that point of view, it's not a loophole, it's just responsible planning, kind of like buying insurance for a risk you know is out there. So the idea is that the goal here isn't to abuse the system, it's to put up a firewall to make sure that one catastrophic medical event doesn't come along like a tidal wave and just wash away a whole lifetime of hard work and savings, leaving a family with absolutely nothing. And that really leaves us with the big question to chew on. When there's a legal path that exists to protect your family's financial security from these devastating, but let's face it, foreseeable costs, is taking that path finding a loophole, or is it just being responsible and planning for the future?